with us this morning.
You look at everything that's happened over the past month, and you would think that this really is Senator Warnock's race now to lose.
You would think.
You would think. But the polls are still very, very close. What's your best read on what you're seeing in Georgia?
Look, I think we're seeing Democrats really taking a run at the early vote. In this special that's airing on Peacock right now, it's airing through December 6th.
Oh,
I talked to a Republican strategist, Brian Robinson, and we had a whole conversation about why Republicans have not made more of a play for early vote. When you talk to Republicans in Georgia, they talk to you about, oh, these are these blue counties turning out. Republicans are going to turn out on Election Day. Well, it's not necessarily so sure. There are counties like Greene where Republicans are showing up. These are less populous counties than counties like Douglas, Rockdale. We look at Fulton County, a Democratic stronghold. Cobb County, which went blue in 2016 and has been trending blue since then. So I just really think that this is a turnout game. That's why you saw President Obama there on Thursday. Today is the last day of early vote in Georgia.
I see.
There is no early vote on Saturday. There is no Sunday vote. And the next opportunity people have to vote is on Election Day after today. And so I think Democrats are concerned enough to spend real money in this state. More millions and millions of dollars have poured into this runoff election. You've got organizations like the New Georgia Project, Action Fund, who have been knocking on millions of doors across the state. They are trying to pull people out, and I think the numbers we should be watching are for the people that vote in the runoff but did not vote in the general election. There's a large swath of those individuals, and predominantly younger Black folks.
So Kurt, it's interesting. Democrats have had a year that's far exceeded everybody's expectations. I would say, though, some people thinking Georgia is an afterthought, I think it's extraordinarily important. I think it's extraordinarily important because if Republicans can win in Georgia and say, we easily won the governor's race, we kicked out an incumbent, it really changes the way things look over the next couple of years as far as the swing state. Whereas if Democrats win in Georgia and they pick up one in the Senate, it means they've done well in the new swing state of Georgia. They did great in Arizona in the major races, did extraordinarily well in Michigan, took over legislatures in Minnesota and I think Pennsylvania. I mean, they have a great story to tell, but they kind of need to win Georgia to keep that momentum going, right?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Momentum is the word here. And like in sports, when you are on a winning streak, continuing that streak is the most effective thing you can do to get your agenda forward. The last thing that we need as Democrats right now is for coming off of the historically woefully underperformance that the Republicans endured in November to now give them a win of any kind. We have them on the ropes. They are on the defensive. They spent the last few days talking about things from defending white supremacy and trying to denounce Nazism. And they want to change the conversation so desperately. The only way that can happen is if they get a victory.
So let's talk. You talk about in the LA Times about how it's Groundhog Day for the Republicans again. We've been talking about Newt Gingrich's piece all morning because it's fascinating. Gingrich has moved beyond sort of defend Trump at all costs and is now saying Joe Biden is beating us. He's beating us at every turn. He's an Eisenhower figure. He's a Reagan-esque figure. Underestimate him at your own risk because this guy's going to keep beating you. I thought it was fascinating. Well, and it sounds like for Gingrich, at least, who's now saying enough of all the cultural issues, maybe we get back to the basics of conservatism, budgets, taxes, regulations.
What Republicans stand for.
It's quite a shift. It's taken too long, but he's one of the few Republicans that in this Trumpist wing that's now saying enough. We're just going to keep losing.
Well, it's something to finally see a Republican wake up and go, yeah, I'm tired of losing. And understanding the root causes and the reasons for why that they are losing. Yeah. And that's part of what I read about the LA Times. Like, we've seen this play before. The RNC just ordered this autopsy again. And like, you could just dust off the one.
Didn't we get 25
That's not
that hard.
What happened to the autopsy y'all did back in 2012, 2013?
I had nothing to do with that. And they ignored it anyway. So what was the point?
It's
$1 million down the drain.
The question I have is, do you think that this or what is his name?
Kanye
Fuentes thing, do you think that this is sort of like circling the bottom of the toilet, like maybe it'll all go down at some
Why don't we
point.
just say Trump finally crossed the Rubicon here?
I mean, it just, for Trump supporters in areas that have many Trump supporters, you know, I mean, is that just too much for them? Too weird? Too disturbing?
I don't see any
You don't see
observable
evidence of that?
evidence to the contrary that folks are, you know, wanting to move
But
off
in your
of him.
gut, when you saw that, and then you see Kanye on Infowars talking about
Defending
Hitler.
But it was
Ari
consistent.
Emanuel's
It's
wife.
part of a consistent narrative. I go back to what I've said before. All of this, for me, all of the performative part of this, when you have some dinner with a Nazi. And my question is, okay, so what does the leadership have to say, Joe? You were in the House.
Right.
What do you think the leadership in '94
Oh, my God.
would have said about the head of the party, the president, former president, having dinner with Nazis?
Hey, Michael, we
Well,
don't
I've
have to
given
even
up
go
on
back
them.
that far. All we have to do is see what they did. Who's the Iowa congressman who they stripped of his party?
Yeah.
Yes.
King.
King,
King,
yeah.
Steve
Steve
King.
King.
So-
that wasn't so long ago.
This goes back to the question, though, that to your original answer, that, I haven't seen the evidence. The reason the leadership has not rebuffed former President Trump is because the grassroots, the voters, still seem to be with him in many respects. And I think that's something we really need to contend with. 1 million people voted for the election denier in Arizona that was at the
Right.
insurrection.
Right.
No, that's why, too, winning, again, back to your original question, winning Georgia for Democrats, putting another nail in the coffin of one of Donald Trump's handpicked candidates is important in keeping that momentum and keeping that storyline going and giving it life, showing, listen, when you look at the Democrat run that we've had now, a lot of that started with the special election win last time down in January of 2021. Doing that again and continuing that, starting the year with another win here.
Right.
Like, again, momentum.
another vote.
And
the
another
interesting thing
vote.
about-
Well, and that's the one thing I want to point out, too. One of the most important parts going forward of why we need to win this seat is because at the committee level, having 51 gives us more members on that dais.
Yep.
Right now, it's tied. With the 50-50 Senate, there are the same number of Republicans and Democrats on that dais. The Senate Republican majority, those committees are going to be vital in helping push back against the avalanche of Republican-led investigations. We're going to need to show that while the House is doing their kangaroo court, Senate Democrats with control of Congress can do something, too.
Okay.
You know,